Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Emotional Entrepreneur Show with Summer and
Jen. I need a new way to say that. It's weird.
you crack me up. I'm trying to get us up on LinkedIn here. Bear with me for a second. I'm so excited that we're here with you today. So we're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to our hearts, and that is really tips for really leading out with mentorship, understanding what that means to bridge a gap in regards to mentorship, generational gaps when it comes to mentorship. So we're really looking at this in a different way. We are approaching mentorship in a different way, and we're so excited about this. I'm excited. Jen, are you excited?
Yes, I am because one, because you are, but also because I think we have all experienced this. Whether you are in corporate America or on your own, we have all experienced the challenges of having to work with somebody in a different generation. Meaning, are depending on what you are you working with someone that's a baby boomer, a Gen Z, a millennial? And we all have heard the jokes. I mean, even last night I was laughing about this one guy who did this reel where he was showing, like, okay, if I was age 18, and this was about like people having to go back into the workforce,
Right?
literally back into the office. And the guy was like, okay, age 18. He's like, Mom, they're asking us to go back into the office. I've never been in the office.
Oh, yes,
and,
yes.
and then it went to 25. And then he's like age 25. And he's just like, oh, back in the office. I just got an apartment in the city. And it was just like, all these different things at different age stages. And then there was one at 30 that was saying, like, it's the same guy, right, doing these little acts. And he's like, well, I guess we didn't prove that working remote can work. It's just so funny, right? I mean, it's not funny when we're going through it, but we make light of things that we are struggling with. So it just comes to show that there are different stages of challenges that we all go through. So now how do we all get along?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you say that. How do we all get along? And that's why this new approach is so important. Hey there, everybody. And I just want to shout out to everybody here on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We've got a lot of people, and Viviana says, sup, sounds great. So does that mean I have to stop complaining about the generation who is terrified of technology? Starts with a B, rhymes with rumor, laugh out loud. Hey, Chastity, it's nice to have you here. Hello, hello. Invite your friends, because this show, actually, we're going to be talking about some mentorship issues that are for everyone. Everyone. Do you know right now there are, and I'm not going to get into the smaller categories or the subdivisions of this, but I want to show you that there are, or tell you that there are five generations out there, from traditional to Gen Z. So we've got traditional, baby boomers, millennials. I think I missed mine, right? So there was traditional, baby boomers,
Gen
X, millennials, Gen Z. Right. Thank you. So five. That's a lot. That is a lot. Hey there, Mike. That is a lot. And I'm not even talking about those other divisions, right? So we can break those down even further. However, we're not going to do that today. We are going to talk about those five just briefly and touch on those, because we're talking about people who were born in the 40s still being in the workforce, right? On up to today. And we've got young kids who are starting at 15 and a half, starting at work, right? And many of these people, our younger folks, have missed some of the milestones. They missed graduation because of COVID. They missed like the opportunity to like go to school and with other people in some instances. And now we're transitioning them into the workforce. Boom. That's huge. That is huge. So there's some gaps. There's some major gaps that we're looking at. And so how are we bridging these gaps? How are we defining what a mentor looks like today? Here's why we're saying this, because there's many things now that we're talking about. We're talking about tech. We're talking about communication. We're talking about values. We're talking about just perspective. We are talking about so many things related to the differences between the generations and as we've come up through our professional evolution, right? Or our professional stages. And so I know that when I came up through the ranks, yeah, I was at a job. I was at a job and I had mentors, and I looked to those that were older than me to give me wisdom, to shed light on certain things. And I think that's great. However, we have changed so much over the generations. I think it's time to do it a little differently now.
Right.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking about when, I was in, a traditional office environment. And, back then, there was that idea that like, okay, they've been here longer, they're older, more mature, wiser, but like you said, things have shifted. And I think this is where we miss the mark sometimes, where we, especially for on the farther end of the spectrum in terms of where you fall into generations,
Yeah.
that it's so easy for us to look at the younger ones and go like, what do they know? They don't have experience. And there's already this judgment. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? There's judgment happening on both sides.
Right.
Making the assumption that, okay, you guys are old, you don't know anything, you don't have you might have experience, but we don't do it that way anymore. You don't even want to use technology. Then the other side can be looking at the younger generation and having their own assumptions. And so I think this is why this whole topic is so, so important, that we learn to have some kind of understanding and some empathy for, what has each generation gone through? Where are they coming from? And what were they dealing with growing up? It's almost like, money stories, right? What did you learn growing up as you were going through the workforce, if that was the situation? Or what did you inherit from your mentors, if you had any, or your previous managers and bosses? Or maybe you grew up in a very toxic work environment. Like, all those things have, an influence on how we are interacting with our peers and colleagues.
Absolutely. I love that you say so much. When you started out, you used the word assumptions.
Right.
I love that you use that word, because I think just people in general, we make assumptions, right? But then when we're in the workforce, it gets even more, it can become even more toxic, right? If we don't start breaking down and understanding each other better, if we continue to make those assumptions, right? And there are changes. However, I do want to point out that there are changes between the generations based on our values, our perspectives about life, our perspectives about jobs, where we want to be. It used to be like, okay, you go straight from high school to college to getting the job, the good job. You stay in that job for a lifetime. That is not what is happening anymore, right? Buying the car, the big house. A lot of younger folks are like, I don't want the debt. I don't necessarily know if I need a degree. I don't know if I need a big house. Right. I don't want to take on that debt. Like, there's so many different values that have changed over the years because life changes, economy changes, politics change. Like, there's so many influences, right? But we need to start breaking down these generational gaps to better understand each other. Now, I also want to point out that what we're talking about and cross-generational mentorship really is different than reverse mentorship, because people go, oh, that's reverse mentorship. No, it's not reverse mentorship, because when you're looking at reverse mentorship, you're also looking at somebody in that relationship taking the lead as mentor. Whereas cross-generational mentorship, we are omitting the mentee word and we're saying everybody's a mentor. So we're going to grab from our wisdom. We're going to embrace, forward movement, and we're going to build a brighter future together in regards to breaking down silos, technology, efficiency, values, and crossing over those bridges. So I want to read some of these really great comments. So Chastity said, there is definitely a lot that each generation can learn from one another: experience, technology, trends. Absolutely. By the way, Chastity out there has been on our team as well. She's on our team and she's helping us develop this program out. So that's amazing. So thank you, Chastity. Bibiana says, I agree. Age doesn't always equate to savvy. We need to appreciate people for perspective and a new way of approaching a resolution. Chastity also says, I've definitely seen some posts lately from the baby boomer generation discussing why millennials and younger aren't owning houses, even though they think that should be the case. Now, Bibiana says, I'm puzzled by the supposed trend of bringing a parent to corporate job interviews. That is tough for me to understand. Whoa. Like
I have not heard that one.
What?
What is that?
I don't know. I have not heard that one. That is
a parent teacher conference. Like, what is that? It's so strange. Okay. What is that, Bibiana?
Yeah, there's a point where we call in psychology, there's a point of individuation, right? That's a point where you start separating from your parents, to not to say that, oh my gosh, I don't want to see my parent. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you start separating so you can gain your own independence. You can start developing your own value set. You can start, developing your own voice outside of those dominant roles in your life. Chastity says, I've heard that too, Bibiana, laugh out loud. It's weird, too much codependency. And Chastity, she's part of a younger generation. So yeah, I find that to be really interesting because it doesn't allow for that individuation. And we need that.
Okay. So put it in the comments because I don't know what, I'll look it up afterwards, but what is that? Is like the parent answer questions, or is it like a backup? Or, I mean, that is weird. What is that? I mean, if I help my child nail the interview, I better get a portion of the salary.
Right? Oh my God.
Where's my finder's fee, my agent cut?
Right? Oh my gosh. I mean, it used to be like, my parent would say, okay, here's what you're going to do, right? Or here's some ideas about what you can do. Get the note cards, start, looking in the mirror, answering questions that you think they might ask, start practicing and doing these things, talking to your friends, talking and having these mock interviews. I could never imagine my parent going to my interview with me, ever.
Oh, hell no, not me.
I want to hear from you out there. Would you have your parent go? I don't care what age you are. Just answer the question. And when you do answer the question, tell me what generation you're from, okay?
Is it? I don't know. This is interesting. Yeah, are they asking the parents the question, or is it like the interviewer asking both the parent and the child? Or this is strange. I never heard of this. Okay, interesting.
You know what? I haven't heard of this. I honestly haven't heard. Wow, Bibiana, you're gonna have to reference like an article and give us the link or something. Because I'll do a search too. That is really interesting. Bibiana says, right? How can you work if you can't even get through that part on your own? Yeah. And that's what I mean about the individuation. It's like you need to have that separation so you can start, creating your own identity for yourself, and also falling back. Like if you have a misstep, learning how to get up on your own. Your parents aren't going to be there to catch you. But that's what cross-generational mentorship is all about. I'm also going to read Chastity's comment. The equivalent of asking your mom to still call the doctor for you and tell them what's wrong with you. Although I do miss those days. Right? Right. And then Bibiana says, the parent asked the hard questions, and it's blocked off for some reason for me. And then Chastity says, as a millennial, my mom would not have gone to an interview with me. Laugh out loud. She would be like, I don't even know what they're talking about or what you do for a living. Exactly, because Chastity does something so unique and so interesting. Yeah, a lot of parents wouldn't even understand. And there again, thank you for mentioning that, Chastity, because there again is a difference, is a unique job that maybe a different generation didn't do in the past. So to understand what Chastity's process is, her function in her job, like what her job is. I mean, yeah, we can have these discussions, but Is she going to understand it? Is she going to understand the process? Is she going to value it just as much? So what would be her purpose at the interview?
Yeah, if you can't even do that, that's so enabling. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh gosh, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay. And that's the assumption, right? There's the assumption. So it's like, okay, maybe there's a different reason that I don't know about. And here, and I'm gonna put myself on the spot here. Maybe there is a reason for it. Maybe they want to see the value differences. Maybe they want to see, gather input. I mean, because listen, parents go to drop their kids off at college, right? And it's not necessarily an interview, but they do go with them for transitional purposes. So I don't know if it's for transition. And here's the other thing. When somebody goes into the military and they're young, parents do take them if parents are involved, or parents sign off if they're not 18 yet on, the recruitment. So there's a lot of different areas, maybe you would say professions of sorts, that would require a parent there. But I don't know if necessarily a job interview would.
Oh, I don't like it, but okay, I get it. I get it.
So I'm going to read more of these comments. So Bibiana says, hey, I would be okay with someone else doing those things for me, but I grew up hustling on my own. The parents are coming as wing people, and they stand up and fill in the gaps. And then Bibiana also, she gave a couple of links. Thank you, Bibiana. And then she goes, there you go, peeps. And then Chastity says, it sounds like they are treating interviews like NIL deals where they need an agent present to represent them. Sorry for the sports reference. So yes, absolutely. I think, was it NFL maybe? So I don't know that acronym because I'm not like a huge sports fan. If it's NFL, okay, maybe I get it. And Bibiana says, my parents would tell me to take a hike. Yeah, and I don't think my parents would have necessarily, if I asked them to go to an interview, yeah, they would have absolutely said, no way, that's on you, right? It's on you to like start establishing your independence and go away, right? Like my mom would literally say, if I even wanted to ask her a word that I didn't understand, she said, you know where the dictionary is, go look it up. And so that independence started really early in my family. And she said, and if you need help, then sure, but don't come and ask me first before you try it on your own.
Yes, he did the same thing. He'll ask you, I'm like, hello, Google, you have a phone. Like, I don't know what your excuse is now. You have Google.
Because we had the Encyclopedia Britannica set.
Yeah, that was like 5 extra steps. You had to walk over to the bookshelf, look at, especially when it was the book that split up the letter. Oh man, that was then you're in the wrong volume.
And if you didn't have Britannica, you had to go to the library, look in the card catalog, and ask the librarian to help you if you didn't understand. So,
oh my gosh,
I know I'm killing myself, right? So it's like, that's part of independence. That's part of working. That's part of succeeding. That's part of like the experience. So Bibiana says, pretty much, I think they threw a party when I promised to not come back and watch TV at 3 a.m. Oh my God. Okay.
I took Zeta to the library a couple of years ago. I think it was 5, several years ago.
Yeah.
When we got to the section, they had an encyclopedia. What's it called? World Book?
World Britannica? World Britannica?
It wasn't Britannica. It was the other brand. But anyways, it was an encyclopedia set.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He's like, what is this? I said it. Oh, this is called an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
We used to look up stuff.
I mean, so you notice, Jen, just in this one subject, this one area that we're talking about right now about these interviews, you see that there's a different mindset. Now, I don't know how often people ask their if a job, how often a job would ask the person that's applying, the interviewee, for a parent to come. I mean, because I don't know how prevalent that is, right? So Mike says, or Bibiana says, Yeah, is definitely real. It can be hard to relate sometimes, and I'm a Gen X. And then Mike says, I find my daughters come to me more for advice. Yes, absolutely. And I would go as I got older to my mom, just as I think not even so much advice, but she would naturally and organically have conversations with me about things that were going to be coming up. So, about dating, about confusion, about hormones, about those kinds of things. Or she really didn't know because I was the first one to graduate from college. She didn't know the application process. She had no idea. So I went to my librarian, right? And I asked my librarian for help, or which way should I, which is the best approach to take in writing this entrance essay, or, what do I need to do next for the PSATs, then the SATs, and then and of course, high school kind of guides you through that if that's your trajectory, but that's not everybody's trajectory. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be anymore. And I think that's where we start making these generational mindset shifts, right? Is that I don't necessarily think in a professional job you have to have a degree anymore, especially because when it comes to technology, a lot of the certifications don't require you to have a degree or to get a degree to get a certification. Like, you don't have to do that. And I don't think necessarily it's a trade, it's a profession, right? Because I have folks around me who don't have degrees, who are high up in the chain of government that run technology departments. So, and they didn't finish their degrees, and they're getting paid a lot of money. And it's not just one person, it's many people from different age groups, from different generations. So I think that there's so many shifts now that we need to really start listening to each other in a different way. And that's really how cross-generational mentorship is being approached. So it is breaking down who is the lead here. It is, we are all mentors. We all have something to learn from each other. And when we look at it from this perspective, we're really looking at it from a viewpoint of, we are all teachers. We all have the opportunity to learn from each other. We are starting then to break down silos. We're starting to break down misunderstandings or assumptions, as you said, Jen. We are beginning to really share knowledge and create safer spaces. So cross-generational mentorship, just from a very organic perspective and not getting into the research of this, is really doing a lot to move us forward, to bridge gaps in the workforce. And so it's different than reverse mentorship, whereas there's always going to be a mentor-mentee kind of a deal, right? And putting one in a position of power. And here we're saying we're going to break down that power to a point where it's knowledge exchange. It's creating a safer environment. It's creating holistic innovation and embracing that, where we're breaking down fear as well. Because I think there can be fear, regardless of what generation you're from, regarding tech issues, regarding innovation, regarding how quickly things are moving today. And when we have 5 generations out there and people are saying, well, this has always worked for us, and they're fearing innovation, that's not going to work. That's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, that phrase, I really hate that phrase. Well, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
It's such a closed-minded perspective of like, so then there's no room for growth. There's no room for innovation and creativity. It's just like, I don't even understand why people say things like that. And especially in the work environment, it's very telling of the leadership or what the culture has become, accustomed to. And it's kind of sad. It's really sad because it doesn't, I think, people in management, if that's what they're saying, they don't realize like you're already closing off the possibility of ideas to improve. Yeah. Then it's even trickling down to, your company culture, where now they're not, if I heard that, and I've been in environments like that, well, this is how they've done it. It's really hard to change anything. Yeah. Immediately my brain's like, well, then screw it. I'm not going to try to do this better.
Yeah.
I'm like already demotivated to think of new ideas of like how to streamline things. And that's the thing that I think is so dumb. Like if you allowed people, if you fostered a culture that was open to ideas and innovation of like, hey, if there's a better way to do it, we're totally open to that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I do work with a company that's in the financial services arena, and we are always changing things.
Yeah.
It's not fun, but we are constantly changing things, constantly getting rid of old things, condensing the systems. And even though it's been done that way, like we're all on board to change the way that it is, because at the end of the day, what's happening is we're able to integrate technology. We're integrating AI. Everybody is trying to find their own way of how we can even create our own custom GPTs in Chat GPT. And then not only that, it's saving us time. And then the most important part, it's saving us a ton of money. And I'm thinking, isn't that what a company wants? Like, why would you say, oh, that's how we've always done it, and not be open to the possibility of increasing company culture, increasing morale, increasing like time saved, and increasing revenue? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I guess, you know, it's fair, whatever, laziness.
Well, and here's the thing. I think, Jen, we don't know what we don't know, right? And so that's why this program is going to be big, because we're going to be sharing knowledge about how this can change and how we can help in those ways that you mentioned. I want to read some of these comments because they're great. Jessica says, I think cross-generational mentorship creates a channel for information to flow freely from generation to generation. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really is a way to, one, facilitate knowledge exchange and leverage diverse perspectives. So you're not limiting those perspectives, right? It's really leveraging those. It's encouraging cross-generational collaboration, communication. So absolutely, it's that free flow of information. And Chastity also says, flow freely back and forth between the generations. Absolutely. So it's not just going one way, it's multi-directional, right? So, and then Mike says, I agree, Chastity. And then Bibiana says, oh yeah, technology right now is a daily learning session. If you don't do that, it will melt your mind like a Vulcan death grip.
I love your creative eloquency.
I know, right? She's got a way with words.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Viviana says, I definitely agree, Chastity. We need to be able to share and communicate without judgment or ridicule. Chastity, sometimes systems crash and we have to go to the old methods until they're rebooted or fixed. It's important to know the old and new because you never know. Microsoft had a crash for a bit. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Or Southwest. Check it out. Who remembers what happened with the big, the big crash during that, that airline issue, right? And because of Microsoft, but Southwest was saved because they were using an old system, an outdated system, but it worked, right? So here's the thing. We want to embrace the wisdom. We want to embrace, the innovation, and we want to build a brighter future together. So how can we do this? We can do this through cross-generational mentorship. And if people embrace it, if companies embrace it, as Jen said, it's a way to save money. It's a way to have sustainability in your workforce. It's a way to build a new culture and different workforce. And here's the thing, even with millennials, or Gen Xer, sorry, we came up with technology. So I was in California. I lived in Santa Cruz. Right over the hill was San Jose and Silicon Valley. My mom worked in the tech industry. Things were changing rapidly. So we were growing up in technology, the beginning of technology. Technology, when I watch movies like from the 1950s, I see IBM computers, as big as my office, right? So computers have been around for a long time. It's just things picked up. They started moving. It wasn't just about hardware anymore. It was about software. And so that's where we are. It's application. Now it's AI. So things move very quickly. And I think that if we can't move with those changes, we're holding our companies back. But there's a way to do it, to enculturate this, to understand each other, to communicate, to better share information and knowledge without being resistant, afraid, or have egos driving this, right? So I think there's a
Mhm.
lot that we can go over, and we're going to be going over this occasionally on this show because this is something that is so important, and we want to make sure that people know. And again, it's, as I said, you don't know what you don't know, and that's why you tend to fear, right? So let's push past the fear and let's start sharing knowledge. And that's what we're going to be doing regarding this cross-generational mentorship program that we're going to be launching pretty soon. So with that said, thank you all so much. Oh my gosh, there's so many great comments. Let me read the last few. Bibiana says it was the old red, white, and blue DOS system. And she also says invented after just after fire, the wheel, and Velcro.
Fire.
And then Chastity says from Atari to virtual gaming. Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. I love all these comments, all these shares. And if you are just now jumping in, please watch the replay. We have so much to cover on this. Jen, any last words? What's your nugget for today?
I think an interesting exercise could be just sit down and think about this or write it down. What are some judgments you have about other generations? Is it that, okay, those baby boomers are slow and they're cranky? or is it like millennials, like you guys, I don't know, whatever judgments you have, we all have them. But I think it's good to start with having the awareness of what kind of judgments you have on other generations that you're not in.
I love that. And I'm going to kind of piggyback on that because I think that would be a first step. And then the next step would be if there are, if people in your company or with your business are feeling like they're in silos, why is that? Is it because of an assumption being made? Or is it because they don't know who to go to? So how can we break down those silos based on, really understanding those assumptions and breaking past those assumptions, moving past those assumptions, but not ignoring them, but understanding them. So we have a better idea of how we're impacting a culture. So thank you for that great nugget, Jen.
Yeah,
And I
your
think
follow-up.
Oh, thank you. So with that said, we'll see you next Tuesday. We have another great topic. If you want to share this, please share this because I think this is such important information and it's going to help so many folks out there. Breaking these generational gaps is so important. So with that said, join us next week. Thank you again for joining us. And we are going to dance this out as we always do. Let me start this music. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, here we
go. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your great comments. Have a great week.